The Imperial Resolve cut through the stars like a knife, its gleaming hull reflecting the distant light of Orion's nebulae. The flagship of the Galactic Navy's 7th Fleet was a marvel of engineering over 20 kilometers long, housing 60,000 crew members from 17 species, and carrying enough firepower to reduce a small moon to rubble. What truly set the vessel apart, however, was not its armaments or its size, but its perfect adherence to protocol. Commander Lara Dax stood on the bridge, her 4 eyes scanning the various holographic displays with practiced efficiency. As a Centauri, Dax valued order above all else. Her species had evolved on a world of such precise, seasonal changes and geological stability that they had developed mathematics before they had developed fire. The concept of improvisation was not merely foreign to her, it was anathema. Status report. She commanded, her voice carrying the slight harmonic resonance typical of her species. All systems nominal, Commander, replied Sensor Officer Murkai, his photosensitive Proxian skin rippling with the blue phosphorescence that indicated calm confidence. Long-range scans show no anomalies within the patrol sector. Very good, Dax made a notation on her command tablet. The tablet was exactly 17 centimeters by 12, as specified in Galactic Navy Regulation 5621B, subsection 712. She had measured it herself upon receiving it, as she did with all her equipment. Twice. The turbolift doors at the rear of the bridge hissed open, drawing her attention. Lieutenant Marcus Hale strode onto the bridge, and Dax felt her upper lip curl involuntarily. The human was technically on time for his shift, 7 seconds ahead of schedule in fact, but something about him always struck her as untidy. Lieutenant Hale, reporting for duty, Commander, he said, offering the precise 45-degree bow, mandated by the regulations. Lieutenant, she acknowledged with a curt nod. Assume your station. Hale moved to the tactical console, relieving the Blobit officer who had managed the night shift. Dax watched him surreptitiously. Everything about him was within regulations, from his perfectly pressed uniform to his regulation-length hair. And yet, something seemed off. Perhaps it was the way he walked. Humans had a peculiar gait, somehow both efficient and needlessly dynamic. They never seemed to move in straight lines when curved ones would do. Commander Hale said, after several minutes at his station, I've been analyzing the recent pirate attack patterns in the Orion sector. As per your duties, Dax replied evenly. Yes, but I've noticed something unusual. Hale tapped a sequence of commands, and a holographic display materialized in the center of the bridge. The last 7 attacks have followed standard rating patterns established over the past century, but there's a variation in their retreat vectors. Dax studied the display. The tactical analysis was sound, showing red lines representing pirate approach vectors, and blue lines showing retreat paths. The pattern was indeed anomalous. Your observation is noted, Lieutenant, she said. Prepare a formal report for Fleet Intelligence. With respect, Commander, I believe we could use this information proactively. Hale's voice carried that peculiar human quality, enthusiasm, without proper containment. If we adjust our patrol routes to intercept along these new vectors... Lieutenant Dax interrupted. The Galactic Navy has established patrol protocols dating back 12,000 years. These protocols were formulated by the finest military minds of 17 species and have been optimized by generations of refinement. They do not require your improvisation. Several bridge officers glanced their way. Improvisation was almost a slur in Navy parlance. Of course, Commander. Hale said, his expression carefully neutral. I'll prepare the formal report immediately. Dax nodded, satisfied. The human would learn. Order prevailed as it always did. Later that cycle in the officers' mess hall, Lieutenant Hale sat with the small contingent of human officers assigned to the Imperial Resolve. There were only 7 of them among the ship's vast crew, humans being relatively new additions to the Galactic Navy, having only been admitted 80 years earlier. I swear, Marcus, one of these days that Centauri is going to measure the distance between your eyelashes and cite you for asymmetry," Lieutenant Sophia Chen said, sliding her tray onto the table. "Dax isn't so bad," Hale replied, though his tone lacked conviction. "She's just precise." "Precise," snorted Lieutenant Commander Jackson Wei. "My grandmother's atomic clock was precise. Commander Dax is pathological." "It's not just her," said Lieutenant Junior Grade Amara Okafor, the youngest of their group. "It's the whole damn Navy. 12,000 years of tradition unhampered by progress." Hale glanced around instinctively, checking for non-human ears. "Keep it down. You know how Proxians feel about that kind of talk." "Yeah, well, Proxians don't have to wear these torture devices," Wei grumbled, shifting uncomfortably in his seat. "Standard issue boots my ass. Designed for 17 species and uncomfortable for all of them." Hale had to admit Wei had a point. The Galactic Navy's obsession with standardization meant that equipment was often a compromise that satisfied no one completely. The boots in particular were notorious, rigid-heavy, and with a strange internal structure meant to accommodate everything from Zenturi tripedal feet to Blobit pseudopods. "You know what I do." Okafor leaned in conspiratorially. "I've got a pair of grip socks I wear in my quarters. Against regulations, of course, but my feet have never been happier." "Grip socks?" asked Wei, interested despite himself. "Old Earth tech. Socks with special treads on the bottom. All the grip of boots, but feels like you're wearing nothing at all." Hale raised an eyebrow. "And where exactly does one acquire these non-regulation socks, Lieutenant Junior Grade Okafor?" She grinned. "I've got connections in supply. I could hook you up." "That would be a clear violation of Regulation 4237C regarding unauthorized footwear," Hale said sternly. Then he winked. "Put me down for 2 pairs." The human officers laughed their camaraderie, a small act of rebellion in a universe of rigid conformity. 3 cycles later, an emergency message arrived from Galactic Navy High Command. Commander Dax summoned all senior officers to the bridge immediately. "A diplomatic convoy has been ambushed in the Orion sector," she announced, as soon as they had assembled. 3 ships destroyed, 2 captured, including the vessel carrying Ambassador Zorak of the Proxian Confederation. A collective murmur ran through the assembled officers. The Proxians were key allies in the ongoing political tensions with the Outer Rim autonomous zones. Ambassador Zorak's capture could destabilize the entire sector. "We are the nearest Navy vessel," Dax continued. "High Command has ordered us to engage and retrieve the ambassador. Tactical, your assessment." Hale stepped forward. "Based on the attack pattern and the convoy's last known position, I believe the pirates are heading for the Kalimdor Nebula. The ionic interference would mask their energy signatures and make pursuit difficult. Time to intercept before they reach the nebula. 7 hours at maximum sustainable speed, Commander." Dax's lower eyes narrowed in calculation, while her upper ones remained fixed on the tactical display. "Prepare a standard response team. We will pursue according to Protocol 87 Alpha." "Commander," Hale said, hesitating momentarily, "Protocol 87 Alpha was designed for single-vessel retrieval operations. The pirates have 2 diplomatic ships, plus their own vessels. We're looking at a minimum of 5 enemy ships, possibly more." "Your concern is noted," Lieutenant Dax replied coldly. "Protocol 87 Alpha has been successfully implemented in similar situations 73 times over the past century. But none of those situations involved the Kalimdor Nebula," Hale pressed. "Once they reach those ionic clouds, standard sensors will be compromised. We'll be fighting blind while they'll have the advantage of prepared positions." Dax's 4 eyes blinked in unison, a sign of irritation among Zenturi. "What would you suggest, Lieutenant, abandoning 12,000 years of tested military doctrine in favor of... what exactly?" Hale took a deep breath. "A modified approach, Commander. If we detach a small team in advance of our main force, they could infiltrate the lead pirate vessel before it reaches the nebula." "Infiltrate, you mean a boarding action?" "Yes, but not through standard entry points. The pirates will be expecting that. I'm suggesting we use the ventilation system." The bridge fell silent. Several officers stared at Hale, as if he had suddenly grown a second head. "The ventilation system," Dax repeated flatly. "Yes, Commander. Most ships of the class the pirates are using have external maintenance access ports for their atmospheric recycling systems. They're small, too small for most species to navigate, but humans could manage it." "You're suggesting sending personnel crawling through dirty maintenance ducts?" The disgust in Dax's voice was palpable. "I'm suggesting using an unexpected vector to gain tactical advantage," Hale countered. "A small team could disable their engines before they reach the nebula, allowing us to engage on more favorable terms." Merkai, the proxy and sensor officer, rippled with orange indignation. "This proposal violates at least 17 separate protocols. The very idea of Navy personnel crawling through filth like vermin." "With respect," Hale said, his voice firm, "I'd rather crawl through a dirty vent than explain to the Proxian Confederation why we failed to rescue their ambassador, because we were too proud to get our uniforms dirty." The implied rebuke hung in the air. Dax's 4 eyes fixed on Hale, with an intensity that would have made most junior officers wither. "You are dismissed, Lieutenant," she said eventually. "All of you dismissed. Except you, Lieutenant Hale. You will remain." Once the bridge had cleared, Dax approached Hale. She stood exactly regulation distance from him, close enough for private conversation, far enough to maintain proper professional decorum. "You embarrassed a senior officer in front of the bridge crew," she said, without preamble. "That wasn't my intention, Commander." "Intention is irrelevant. Effect is what matters." She clasped her 3-fingered hands behind her back. "However, your tactical assessment of the nebula's impact on our sensors is correct." Hale blinked in surprise. "I have reviewed 73 successful implementations of Protocol 87 Alpha," Dax continued. "None occurred within an ionic nebula. The protocol's effectiveness under such conditions is not established." This, Hale realized, was as close to admitting uncertainty as a Zenturi ever came. "Commander, I believe my plan could work," he said carefully. "I would volunteer to lead the infiltration team myself." "Of course you would," Dax said, with what might have been the faintest trace of dry humor. "Humans always volunteer for the most disruptive options available." She turned away, staring at the tactical display showing the pirates' projected course toward the nebula. "Lieutenant, your proposed action is not explicitly prohibited by regulations, though it is certainly not endorsed." She seemed to be working through something internally. "Protocol 87 Alpha does allow for supplementary tactical initiatives in environments with compromised sensor efficiency." Hale held his breath. "You have 4 hours," Dax said finally. "Assemble your team and prepare your infiltration plan. I will review it then. If and only if it meets minimum safety parameters and has a reasonable probability of success, I will consider authorizing it as a supplement to our standard response." "Thank you, Commander," Hale said, struggling to keep the excitement from his voice. "This is not approval, Lieutenant. This is merely an accommodation of the fact that our current situation has variables not accounted for in standard protocols." She fixed him with all 4 eyes. "Do not make me regret this accommodation." "Understood, Commander." As Hale left the bridge, his mind was already racing through the logistics. He had 4 hours to plan an unauthorized boarding action using unconventional methods with a team that didn't yet exist. He grinned. For the first time since being assigned to the Imperial Resolve, he felt truly alive. The preparation room hummed with tension as Hale briefed his hastily assembled team, Wei Okafor, and 2 additional human crew members, specialists Zheng and Rodriguez from engineering. "The access port is here," Hale said, pointing to a schematic of the pirate vessel. "Standard maintenance hatch 40 centimeters in diameter." "Tight fit," Wei observed. "That's the point," Hale replied. "The pirates won't expect anyone to come through there because most species wouldn't fit. Once inside, we'll have access to the main ventilation trunk which branches throughout the ship. Our primary target is the engine control room," he continued. "We disable their drives, preventing them from reaching the nebula. Secondary objective is to locate and secure Ambassador Zorak if possible. What about weapons? Rodriguez asked. Standard sidearms won't fit through that access port alongside us. Compressed pneumatic dart guns. Hale said, revealing 5 slim devices that looked more like pens than weapons. Non-standard issue, but they'll fit, and they'll work in the confined space of the ventilation system. And our exit strategy, Wei asked, always the pragmatist. Once the engines are disabled, Commander Dax will engage with the main force. We either fight our way to a standard airlock or extract the same way we came in. Okafor raised her hand. One more thing, sir. What about our boots? They're too bulky for this kind of operation. Hale smiled. Funny you should mention that, Lieutenant Junior Grade. I believe you have a solution to propose. Okafor grinned and pulled a bag from under the table, revealing several pairs of black grip socks. Not regulation, but perfect for the job. If anyone asks, these are specialized tactical footwear, authorized under Emergency Protocol, Exception 47B. Hale said, accepting a pair. Now, let's practice. We have 2 hours before we present this plan to the commander. The team spent the next hour crawling through a maintenance shaft that approximated the dimensions they would face on the pirate vessel. They practiced moving silently, communicating with hand signals, and handling their improvised weapons in the confined space. After the 3rd practice run, a shadow fell across the entrance to their training area. Gural, the Blobit chief engineer, hovered there, his gelatinous body quivering with what humans had learned to recognize as concern. This activity is not on the approved training schedule, Gural noted, his voice bubbling from the speech orifice at the center of his translucent mass. Special tactical exercise, Chief, Hale explained smoothly. Authorized by Commander Dax for evaluation. I see no such authorization in the system, Gural replied, extending a pseudopod to a nearby terminal and interfacing with it directly, one of the advantages of being a silicon-based, semi-liquid lifeform. It's a verbal authorization pending formal approval, Hale improvised. You can check with the commander if you'd like. The Blobit quivered uncertainly. Like most non-human species in the Navy, the concept of a verbal authorization pending formal approval was nearly incomprehensible, a contradiction in terms. Either something was authorized or it wasn't. I will defer inquiry until after your exercise is complete, Gural finally decided. However, I must note that those footwear items are non-regulation. Specialized tactical equipment, Wei said quickly, for enhanced grip in non-standard environments. Gural's body swirled with skepticism, but he withdrew without further comment. Once he was gone, the team exchanged glances. That was close, Okafor muttered. Too close, Hale agreed. Let's wrap this up quickly. We've got the basics down, and I need time to prepare a presentation that will convince Commander Dax this isn't completely insane. An hour later, standing before Commander Dax in her private briefing room, Hale finished outlining the infiltration plan. He'd been meticulous in his preparation, citing relevant regulations that could be interpreted to permit such an action, and providing detailed risk assessments for each phase. Dax had listened in complete silence, her 4 eyes unblinking throughout the entire presentation. When Hale finished, the silence stretched uncomfortably. Lieutenant, she said finally, your plan violates the spirit, if not the letter, of 17 different protocols. It places highly trained Navy personnel at risk in uncontrolled environments. It relies extensively on improvisation rather than established procedure, she paused. And it is unfortunately our best option for preventing the pirates from reaching the nebula with their hostages. Hale tried to keep the surprise from his face. Then you're approving the operation. I am authorizing a supplementary tactical initiative under Protocol 87 Alpha subsection 12, which allows for adaptive approaches in environments with compromised sensor efficiency. Dax's precise phrasing was clearly meant to establish that she was operating within regulations. Your team will deploy via shuttle under cover of a standard patrol pattern. You will have 3 hours to complete your mission before the main force engages. Thank you, Commander, Hale said, genuinely grateful. We won't let you down. See that you don't, Lieutenant. Dax's tone was grave. Because if this fails, I will personally ensure that every human in the Galactic Navy spends the remainder of their service cleaning waste reclamation units with oral hygiene implements. Hale suppressed a smile at the Zenturi's attempt at a human-style threat. Understood, Commander. One more thing, Dax added, as Hale turned to leave. These grip socks you mentioned in your equipment list. They are not standard issue. Hale froze. They're specialized tactical footwear for enhanced maneuverability in confined spaces, he said, repeating Wei's explanation. Indeed, Dax's upper eyes narrowed slightly. I expect a full report on their effectiveness after the mission. If they prove superior to standard footwear in this specific application, I will consider recommending them for inclusion in the equipment database. Hale blinked in surprise. Yes, Commander. I'll make sure to include a detailed assessment. As he left the briefing room, Hale couldn't decide what was more surprising, that Commander Dax had approved his unorthodox plan, or that she might actually be considering non-regulation socks for official use. Perhaps there was hope for the rigid Zenturi after all. 2 hours later, a Navy patrol shuttle drifted silently through space, its engines powered down to minimal output to avoid detection. Inside, Hale and his team made final preparations. They had abandoned their standard Navy uniforms in favor of close-fitting black coveralls that wouldn't catch on narrow vent openings. And of course, they wore their grip socks. Approaching optimal deployment range, the shuttle pilot announced. Hale checked the tactical display. The pirate convoy, 2 captured diplomatic vessels, and 3 pirate ships was visible on long-range sensors, still an hour from the nebula's edge. Remember, Hale told his team, our primary objective is to disable their engines. Find Ambassador Jorak if possible, but don't take unnecessary risks. We need to buy time for the resolve to engage before they reach the nebula. They nodded faces, serious but determined. This was what humans excelled at, adaptation, improvisation, thinking outside the rigid boxes that so many other species found comfortable. Deployment in 30 seconds, the pilot called. Hale led his team to the airlock, where they donned lightweight pressure suits designed for short-duration EVA operations. Unlike standard Navy pressure suits, which were bulky and designed for extended use, these were slim and flexible, another piece of non-standard equipment Hale had requisitioned. 10 seconds, 5, deploying now. The airlock cycled, and the team launched themselves into the void. Their suits had small maneuvering thrusters, allowing them to guide themselves toward the lead pirate vessel, a converted cargo hauler, bristling with haphazardly added weapons. Maintenance port in sight. Wei's voice came through the comm. Looks like standard Orion configuration, just as we predicted. The team converged on a small hatch on the underside of the pirate ship, partially hidden between 2 cargo modules. Okafor attached a bypass device to the external panel, yet another non-regulation tool that Hale preferred not to explain to Commander Dax. I'm in, she murmured after a moment. Overriding the security lockout, now. The hatch slid open silently, revealing a dark tunnel, barely wide enough for a human to navigate. I'll go first, Hale said. Wei, you're last. Seal the hatch behind us. One by one, they slipped into the maintenance access tunnel, finding themselves in near total darkness. Their helmet lights provided the only illumination, casting eerie shadows in the confined space. Everyone switch to infrared, Hale ordered. We don't want our lights giving us away. The tunnel extended for several meters, before opening into a larger junction, where several ventilation shafts converged. According to the schematic, Hale had studied the main shaft leading toward the engine section, should be directly ahead. This way, he whispered, though there was likely no one to hear them in the deserted maintenance area. They crawled, single file, through the dusty, cramped shaft. The grip socks proved invaluable, providing traction on the smooth metal surfaces, without the noise that boots would have made. Hale made a mental note to include this in his report to Dax, assuming they survived. After 15 minutes of silent progress, they reached a vertical shaft that dropped precipitously through the heart of the ship. Engine section should be 3 decks down, Hale said, consulting the schematic displayed on his wrist device. We'll need to climb down. No problem, Okafor replied, pulling a thin cord from her belt. Tensile nanowire. Can support 500 kilos and fits in your pocket. Hale raised an eyebrow. I don't recall that being in our approved equipment list, Lieutenant Junior grade. Okafor grinned behind her helmet visor. Specialized tactical equipment, sir, for enhanced vertical mobility in non-standard environments. I'm creating a monster, Hale muttered, but he accepted the wire gratefully. They descended the vertical shaft carefully, their grip socks again proving useful for maintaining footholds on the shaft walls. At the 3rd deck, they found another horizontal passage leading toward what should be the engine control room. The vibration of massive engines grew more pronounced as they advanced. Through small grates in the ventilation shaft, they caught glimpses of the pirate crew, a motley collection of beings from various species, most outlawed from Galactic Navy service due to criminal records or political affiliations. Engine control room ahead, Wei whispered, pointing to a larger grate from which bright light spilled. Hale peered through the grate. 3 pirates manned the control consoles, 2 Silesians and a Drawl. No sign of any hostages. Rodriguez Okafor. Hale said quietly, You two take the engine room. Wei Jiang and I will continue toward the bridge. That's the most likely location for the ambassador. Rules of engagement, Rodriguez asked. Non-lethal if possible. These pneumatic darts contain a fast-acting sedative. 1 hit should incapacitate for about an hour. Hale checked his wrist chronometer. We've been aboard for 22 minutes. We need to disable those engines in the next 15 if we're going to prevent them from reaching the nebula. The team split up with Rodriguez and Okafor, carefully removing the grate leading to the engine room, while Hale led the others onward toward the bridge. As they crawled away, Hale heard the soft of pneumatic darts being fired, followed by the muffled thuds of bodies hitting the floor. So far, so good. The path to the bridge was more complicated, requiring them to navigate several junctions and bypass a few areas where the ventilation system narrowed too much for them to pass. At one point, they were forced to exit the vents and cross a deserted corridor before finding another access point. Movement ahead, Zhang whispered, as they neared the bridge section. Looks like 2 guards outside what might be a holding cell. Hale peered through the grate. 2 heavily armed pirates stood outside a door with a makeshift electronic lock. The ambassador, perhaps. We'll need to take them both out simultaneously, Hale decided. Zhang, you take the one on the left. I'll handle the right. They positioned their dart guns through the grate slats, took careful aim, and fired. Both pirates dropped without a sound, the sedative working instantly. Clear, Hale confirmed. Let's move. They removed the grate and dropped silently to the corridor floor, their grip socks cushioning their landing. Wei moved immediately to the locked door, attaching another bypass device. This is more sophisticated, he murmured. Might take a minute. Make it fast, Hale replied, keeping his dart gun trained on the corridor. We don't know when they'll be missed. The lock finally yielded with a soft click. Wei pushed the door open, revealing a small cargo compartment that had been converted into a makeshift cell. Inside, a Proxian diplomat lay on a narrow bench, his skin a sickly gray color indicating distress. Ambassador Zorak, Hale asked, kneeling beside the Proxian. Yes, the diplomat replied weakly. Who? Lieutenant Marcus Hale, Galactic Navy. We're here to extract you. Hale examined the ambassador quickly. Are you injured? Not physically, Zorak said. But they've been keeping me in a dry environment. Proxians need moisture. Zhang immediately produced a hydration pack from his kit. This should help, Ambassador. As the Proxian gratefully accepted the water, Hale's communicator chirped softly. Engines disabled, Okafor's voice reported. We had to physically sever some control conduits. They won't be reaching the nebula anytime soon. Good work, Hale replied. We've secured the ambassador. Meet us at Junction Point 7 for extraction. Just then, an alarm began to blare throughout the ship. That's not good, Wei observed unnecessarily. Change of plans, Hale decided quickly. We can't go back through the vents with the ambassador, he won't fit. We need to find an escape pod or a shuttle bay. There's a secondary shuttle bay 2 decks up, Zhang said, consulting his wrist device. Not far from our entry point. That's our exfil, Hale confirmed. Ambassador, can you walk? Jorak struggled to his feet, his skin already showing better color from the hydration. I believe so, yes. Wei take point, Zhang rearguard, let's move. They emerged into the corridor, just as a group of pirates rounded the far corner. Shouts of alarm erupted, followed by the distinctive whine of energy weapons charging. Back. Hale ordered, pushing the ambassador into the shelter of a cross corridor. Wei, cover fire. Wei fired several darts in rapid succession, forcing the pirates to take cover. The team retreated down the cross corridor, moving as quickly as the weakened ambassador could manage. Okafor Rodriguez, we're blown, Hale called into his communicator. Meet us at the secondary shuttle bay deck 5 section 12. Already on our way, Rodriguez replied. We've got company too. The ship rocked suddenly, nearly throwing them off their feet. What was that? Zhang gasped. Hale checked his chronometer and grinned. That would be the Imperial Resolve, right on schedule. Commander Dax doesn't appreciate pirates making her deviate from protocol. They hurried through a series of corridors encountering sporadic resistance that they dealt with using their dart guns and, when necessary, hand-to-hand combat. The grip socks proved unexpectedly useful in the latter, allowing the humans to maintain footing on the sometimes slick deck plates while executing maneuvers that left the pirates confused and outmatched. Another explosion rocked the ship, this one closer and more violent. Hull breach detected in sections 14 through 17, an automated voice announced over the ship's comm system. Emergency bulkheads activated. That's between us and the shuttle bay, Wei realized with alarm. Alternate route. Hale decided immediately. There's a maintenance ladder access in section 11 that should bypass the sealed areas. They changed course, the ship continuing to shudder under the Resolve's bombardment. When they reached the maintenance access, they found Okafor and Rodriguez already there, looking slightly disheveled, but uninjured. Took the scenic route, Okafor quipped. Figured we'd give you time to catch up, Hale replied with a grin. Ambassador, this ladder leads up to deck 5. It's going to be steep, but it's our best option. The Proxian looked dubiously at the narrow access shaft, but nodded determinedly. Lead the way, Lieutenant. The climb was arduous, especially for the weakened ambassador, but they managed it without incident. Emerging on deck 5, they found themselves only 2 sections away from the shuttle bay. Almost there, Hale encouraged them. Stay tight, watch your corners. They moved swiftly through the corridors, encountering no further resistance. Most of the pirates were presumably occupied with the Resolve's attack or damage control efforts. The shuttle bay doors were locked down, but Rodriguez made short work of the control panel. Benefits of being an engineer, he explained, as the doors slid open. Inside, they found 3 small shuttlecraft. 2 appeared damaged, but the third looked operational. Wei Zhang, get the ambassador aboard and prep for launch, Hale ordered. Okafor Rodriguez, help me secure the bay. They had just finished barricading the main entrance when Hale's communicator chirped again. Lieutenant Hale, this is Commander Dax. Report your status. We've secured the ambassador and are preparing to evacuate via shuttle, Hale replied. The pirate vessel's engines are disabled, and they've sustained significant damage to multiple sections. The other pirate ships are attempting to reach the nebula, Dax informed him. We're engaging them now. Can you launch within the next 5 minutes? Affirmative, Commander. We'll be clear of the vessel shortly. Be advised, Lieutenant, we may need to destroy the ship you're on once you're clear. The pirates are employing unconventional tactics. Hale almost laughed at the irony. Understood, Commander. We'll expedite our departure. We signaled from the shuttle's hatch. We're ready to launch. Everyone aboard Hale ordered backing toward the shuttle, while keeping his dart gun trained on the barricaded entrance. They were halfway to the shuttle when the bay doors exploded inward, showering them with debris. Through the smoke, A dozen armed pirates stormed in, firing wildly. "Go!" Hale shouted, pushing Okafor toward the shuttle. "Get the ambassador out of here!" Wei and Rodriguez laid down covering fire from the shuttle's hatch, while Hale and Zhang retreated more slowly, using cargo containers for cover. "Zhang, go," Hale ordered. "I'll hold them off." The specialist hesitated only briefly before making a run for the shuttle. Hale fired his last few darts, then drew a makeshift baton he'd fashioned from a maintenance tool. When the nearest pirate charged him, Hale slid forward on his grip socks, ducking under the pirate's swing and delivering a sharp blow to his knee joint. The pirate went down with a howl, and Hale used the momentum of his slide to continue toward the shuttle. Two more pirates moved to intercept him, but a well-placed shot from Wei dropped one, and Hale evaded the other with an acrobatic roll that would have been impossible in standard Navy boots. "Launch now!" Hale shouted as he dove through the shuttle hatch. Rodriguez slammed the control panel, and the hatch sealed just as energy blasts peppered the hull. Wei was already at the controls, powering up the engines. "Hang on, this won't be subtle." The shuttle lurched forward, smashing through the bay's magnetic containment field and tumbling into open space. Behind them, the pirate ship was a mess of damaged sections and venting atmosphere, with the Imperial Resolve looming nearby, its weapons still firing at the retreating pirate vessels. "Imperial Resolve, this is Lieutenant Hale." He called over the emergency channel. "We have extracted Ambassador Zorak and are clear of the pirate vessel." "Acknowledged, Lieutenant," came Commander Dax's precise voice. "Transmitting coordinates for your approach vector. We are continuing pursuit of the remaining pirate vessels." As Wei piloted their stolen shuttle toward the massive Navy flagship, Hale turned to check on the ambassador. The Proxian was looking much improved, his skin now a healthy, iridescent blue. "Thank you, Lieutenant," Zorak said sincerely. "That was quite unlike any rescue I might have imagined." Hale grinned. "Just doing our job, Ambassador." "I must say," the diplomat continued, "I've never seen beings move through a ship's infrastructure like that before. Is that standard Navy procedure?" The humans exchanged glances. "Let's just say it's a specialized approach," Hale replied diplomatically. "Well, it was most effective. I shall be sure to mention it in my report to the Confederation." Hale's smile faltered slightly. While the mission had been successful, he suspected that Commander Dax might have mixed feelings about their unconventional tactics being lauded in official diplomatic communications. His suspicion proved correct when they docked with the Imperial Resolve an hour later. Commander Dax was waiting in the hangar bay, standing at perfect regulation attention, all four of her eyes fixed on the approaching humans. Behind her stood a medical team ready to attend to the ambassador, as well as several security officers who looked uncertain whether they were there to welcome heroes or arrest rule breakers. "Lieutenant Hale," Dax acknowledged as they disembarked. "Ambassador Zorak, I am pleased to see you safely recovered." "Commander Dax," the ambassador replied, his skin rippling with appreciation. "Your human officers executed a most remarkable rescue. Their ability to navigate the ventilation system was ingenious." "Indeed," Dax replied, her tone carefully neutral. "Our personnel are trained to adapt to various operational parameters." Hale caught the slight emphasis on trained and suppressed a smile. Commander Dax was covering for them, implying that crawling through ventilation shafts was a standard Navy tactic rather than an impromptu human innovation. "The medical team will escort you to our infirmary for evaluation," Ambassador Dax continued smoothly. "Meanwhile, I must debrief Lieutenant Hale and his team." As the ambassador was led away, Dax turned her full attention to the human boarding team. "My office, immediately." The walk to Commander Dax's office was conducted in silence. Once inside, with the door sealed, Dax circled her desk and faced them, hands clasped precisely behind her back. "Your mission was successful," she stated. "The ambassador is recovered, the pirate convoy was prevented from reaching the nebula, and we have captured 2 of the 5 vessels with minimal Navy casualties." "Thank you, Commander," Hale replied, standing at attention. "I did not compliment you, Lieutenant. I merely stated facts." Dax's upper eyes narrowed. Now explain to me why the ambassador's left forearm displays a contusion, consistent with a human handprint, why 3 sections of the pirate vessel suffered catastrophic structural failures following your infiltration, and why Ambassador Zorak has requested to meet with the Galactic Navy Tactical Innovation Committee to discuss what he calls the remarkable human ventilation infiltration technique. Hale swallowed. We had to physically assist the ambassador during our extraction, Commander. The structural failures were necessary to disable the vessel's engines and provide our escape route. As for the ambassador's interest in our tactics, your unauthorized tactics, Dax corrected. Our adaptations to field conditions, Commander. For several long moments, Dax simply stared at them, all 4 eyes unblinking. The humans stood rigid, awaiting judgment. Your after-action report, Dax finally said, will detail exactly what modifications to Protocol 87 Alpha you implemented, what equipment you utilized, and what structural damage you caused. You will also prepare a formal response to the ambassador's inquiries that emphasizes the extensive training and preparation required for such operations, without encouraging further deviation from standard protocols. Yes, Commander, Hale replied, relief evident in his voice. Furthermore, Dax continued, you will surrender the non-regulation footwear you are currently wearing for detailed analysis by the Equipment Standards Division. The humans exchanged glances. All pairs, Lieutenant Hale, including those not used in this operation. Hale suppressed a sigh. Yes, Commander. Dismissed, Dax said curtly. Except you, Lieutenant Hale. As the others filed out, Hale remained at attention, wondering what additional reprimand awaited him. Once they were alone, Dax's posture relaxed infinitesimally. Your tactics were unorthodox, disruptive, and extremely difficult to reconcile with established protocols, she said. I understand, Commander. They were also effective, she admitted, causing Hale to blink in surprise. The capacity to adapt to unexpected circumstances is not without value. Coming from a Zenturi, this was high praise indeed. However, Dax continued, her tone hardening again. The manner in which you implemented these adaptations without proper oversight, documentation, or safety precautions cannot be permitted to continue. What are you saying, Commander? I am saying, Lieutenant, that while innovation may have its place in Galactic Navy operations, it must be properly channeled and controlled. Human unpredictability is a resource, but like any resource, it must be managed. Hale nodded slowly, beginning to understand. I will be recommending to Fleet Command that specialized training be developed for ventilation infiltration tactics, Dax said, under proper supervision and with appropriate protocols. Thank you, Commander. Do not thank me yet, Lieutenant. Dax's upper eyes narrowed again. Because I will also be recommending that humans be barred from undertaking such operations without direct, non-human supervision. Hale's jaw dropped slightly. But Commander, non-humans can't fit through the... Precisely, Dax interrupted. Which means that such tactics will only be employed in circumstances where a supervisory officer deems them absolutely necessary, rather than merely expedient, or worse, exciting. Hale struggled to keep his expression neutral. This was simultaneously a validation of their approach and a bureaucratic straitjacket designed to prevent its frequent use. I understand, Commander. I doubt that, Lieutenant, but you will comply nonetheless. Dax moved toward the door, indicating the meeting was over. One final matter. These grip socks of yours. Yes, Commander. The Equipment Standards Division will analyze them thoroughly. If they prove to have legitimate tactical applications, they may be approved for limited use in specified operations. Hale couldn't quite hide his surprise. That's very open-minded, Commander. It is practical, Lieutenant. The Galactic Navy has survived for 12,000 years by incorporating useful innovations while discarding disruptive ones. She fixed him with all 4 eyes. Remember that distinction. Yes, Commander. As Hale left Dax's office, he found his team waiting anxiously in the corridor. So, Wei asked immediately, how bad is it? Hale considered for a moment. Could be worse. They're going to formalize the ventilation infiltration as an official tactic. That's great, Okafor exclaimed. With non-human supervision required, Hale added. Wei frowned. But how would that even work? They can't fit in the vents with us. Exactly, Hale said with a slight smile. I think that's the point. So they're officially acknowledging that our approach works, while making it practically impossible to implement, Rodriguez summarized. Classic bureaucracy. Look on the bright side, Hale said. They're also evaluating our grip socks for potential approval as tactical equipment. This news was met with surprised delight from the others. As they walked toward the mess hall discussing the mission and its aftermath, Hale reflected on Commander Dax's words. The tension between innovation and protocol, between human adaptability and alien order, wasn't going to be resolved with one successful mission. It was an ongoing negotiation, sometimes cooperative, sometimes adversarial, that would shape the future of humans in the Galactic Navy. 3 weeks later, the Imperial Resolve received new orders from Galactic Navy High Command. The rising pirate threat in the Orion sector had prompted a formal review of tactical protocols with specific attention to adaptive approaches in non-standard environments. Attached to the orders was Directive 1173G, Guidelines for Ventilation System Tactical Infiltration Operations. Commander Dax called Lieutenant Hale to her office to discuss the new directive. It seems your unconventional approach has gained official recognition, Lieutenant, she said, displaying the document on her desk screen. Hale scanned the directive quickly. It outlined detailed procedures for ventilation infiltration, including equipment specifications, personnel requirements, and safety protocols. As expected, it also included the stipulation that all such operations must be conducted under the direct supervision of a non-human officer of lieutenant rank or higher. I'm surprised they processed this so quickly, Hale admitted. Usually, new protocols take months to approve. Ambassador Jorak's endorsement accelerated the process considerably, Dax explained. The Proxian Confederation was most impressed by their representative's rescue. And the grip socks, Hale couldn't help asking. Dax's upper eyes narrowed slightly, in what Hale had come to recognize as her version of amusement. Officially designated tactical friction footwear, they have been approved for use in specified operations, pending final safety certification. That's excellent news, Commander. Perhaps. Dax clasped her hands behind her back. However, there is an additional matter. The pirates have adapted their security measures in response to our infiltration. They are now installing mesh barriers in their ventilation systems and enhancing internal sensors, specifically designed to detect unauthorized presence in maintenance areas. Hale frowned. They're countering our innovation, as any intelligent adversary would, Dax noted. This is why protocols exist, Lieutenant. They provide predictability and stability. Innovations may offer temporary advantage, but they inevitably spawn counter-innovations, creating an endless cycle of adaptation and response. With respect, Commander, isn't that just the nature of warfare? Adaptation has always been key to victory. In the short term, perhaps, Dax conceded. But the Galactic Navy takes a longer view. 12,000 years of carefully refined protocol has produced a stable, predictable security environment. Your human adaptations risk destabilizing that environment. Hale considered this perspective. From a Zenturi point of view, with their evolutionary history of predictable, stable environments, the human preference for improvisation must seem not just strange, but actively threatening. I understand your concern, Commander, he said carefully. But adaptability is as natural to humans as stability is to Zenturi. We can't change our nature, but we can channel it productively. That is precisely what the new directive attempts to do, Dax replied. It acknowledges the utility of human tactical flexibility while establishing appropriate boundaries for its expression. She paused. You may be interested to know that Fleet Command is establishing a specialized unit for unconventional tactical operations, comprised primarily of human personnel. Hale's eyes widened. Really? Yes, and they have requested recommendations for potential candidates to lead this unit. Dax fixed him with all four eyes. "I have submitted your name, Lieutenant." I'm honored, Commander," Hale stammered, genuinely surprised. "Do not be too honored yet," Dax cautioned. "The unit will operate under strict oversight with comprehensive protocols governing what constitutes acceptable, unconventional tactics. You would be granted more flexibility than standard Navy operations allow, but still far less than humans might prefer." Hale smiled. "It's a start, Commander." "Indeed." Dax's expression became serious again. "However, there is still the matter of our current mission. The diplomatic convoy we are escorting must reach the Proxian homeworld safely, and our intelligence suggests the pirates may attempt another intercept." "The ventilation infiltration won't work a second time," Hale acknowledged. "They'll be expecting it now, but you have another unorthodox proposal in mind?" Dax guessed her tone resigned. "Nothing that violates the new directive," Hale assured her quickly. "Just a modification to our patrol formation that would make detecting pirate approach vectors more efficient." Dax studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Prepare a formal proposal, Lieutenant. I will review it according to the appropriate protocols." "Thank you, Commander." As Hale left Dax's office, he reflected that this was in its way a significant victory. Not the complete embrace of human tactical flexibility that he might have wished for, but a recognition that there was value in human approaches, even if they needed to be contained within the larger framework of Galactic Navy protocol. In the officers' mess later that day, Hale shared the news with his fellow human officers. "So they're creating a whole new unit for unconventional tactics, but still requiring non-human supervision." Wei shook his head. "2 steps forward, 1 step back." "I'll take it," Hale replied. 3 weeks ago, we were breaking regulations just by wearing grip socks. Now they're officially approved equipment." Speaking of which, Okafor interjected, "I just got a message from Supply. Our tactical friction footwear has arrived complete with Galactic Navy insignia emblazoned on the soles." The humans laughed at the image of official Navy-issued grip socks. "Things are changing," Hale said. "Slowly, but they're changing. Humans have only been part of the Galactic Navy for 80 years. The Zenturi and others have had 12,000 years to establish their way of doing things. We can't expect them to change overnight, just because we show up with new ideas." "So what happens next?" asked Rodriguez. "We continue to adapt," Hale replied simply. "We follow the protocols where they make sense, and we find ways to work within the system where they don't. And we show them mission by mission that human unpredictability can be an asset rather than a liability." "And the non-human supervision requirement," Wei pressed. Hale grinned. "Well, the directive doesn't specify how close the supervision needs to be. I'm thinking we could make a case that a non-human officer monitoring from a nearby vessel technically meets the requirement." The other humans chuckled appreciatively at this creative interpretation. "Lieutenant Marcus Hale," Okafor said, raising her cup in a mock toast, "bending regulations without breaking them since about 3 weeks ago." "To adaptability within protocols," Hale responded, raising his own cup. "And to the future of humans in the Galactic Navy." As they celebrated this small victory in the ongoing negotiation between human flexibility and alien order, a message alert sounded on Hale's communicator. It was from Commander Dax. "Pirate vessels detected on long-range sensors. Report to the bridge immediately for tactical assessment." Hale rose, nodding to his fellow officers. "Duty calls." "Need backup?" Wei asked, half rising. "Not yet," Hale replied. "But keep your grip socks handy. Something tells me we haven't seen the last of the ventilation shafts." As he hurried toward the bridge, Hale reflected that this, too, was part of the balance the protocols provided structure and stability, while human adaptability offered options when those protocols proved insufficient. Perhaps in time, even the Zenturi would come to appreciate that both approaches had their place in the vast, unpredictable universe. And if not, humans would continue to find ways to slip through the ventilation shafts of bureaucracy, guided by their grip socks and their irrepressible spirit of innovation. It was, after all, what humans did best. The Imperial Resolve continued its mission, a microcosm of the larger Galactic Navy ancient protocols, and new adaptations existing in an uneasy but ultimately productive tension. And somewhere in the official archives, under Regulation Amendment 4237C, a new footnote appeared. No human may board enemy ships without non-human supervision present. A small change to a vast body of regulation, but a significant acknowledgement nonetheless. Human unpredictability was now officially recognized and officially contained. The balance for now was maintained.